All right. Dan and I had a great conversation for about 45 minutes or something like that, and it didn't record properly. So we're just going to do a couple of highlights of this for the questions from Sunday morning. So I think one of the questions here that I think we talked about a good bit was this one about orientations and suffering. So let me hit this one. So it says, what invitation does God offer to those who feel resistance to him based primarily not on logical arguments, but on personal reasons or experience, i.e. an LGBTQ orientation or feeling that Christians seem to hate rather than love. So either an external experience where you're like, oh, this doesn't seem to work in my experience, or internally that something about the makeup of what seems to be most essentially me and my experience of myself seems to not fit with the Christian story thing. Like it doesn't work. And when we recorded this before, you said something like, you made a couple arguments. We made one about like just Christian anthropology, what we think we're made up of, but also the issue of there's no such thing as me making a statement that's mere emotion. Yeah. There's always content in it. Yes. And it's always a mixture of our intuitions and our inferences and our fast thinking emotional connections and what kind of like bubbles up from our intuition intuitively, and the statement that we make with words that has like assumes certain propositions or truths or so on. Yep. And so to say I have this emotional objection to Christianity, not a logical one, you're like, it doesn't really work that way. Yes. It's always both. Yes. There's always emotional inference or intuitive. There's always intuitive assumptions and like verbal connections in terms of meaning. And those are always together, whether you're being philosophical or whether you're being emotional. Yep. Right.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll kind of just give the argument I made, the short version of it, right? Just for anybody that's skeptical of that. If you have propositions or sentences in the philosophical sense, say like 2 + 2 = 4, you can unpack the properties, right? There's aboutness. The sentence is about something. There's relational aspects to it. The relation of 2 to 2 and 4. Yeah. Yep. There's truth. Truth apt, right? There you're
making a claim.
Yes. The same way if you punched me and I felt this emotion of being mad at you and like that it shouldn't happen, I'm already translating the emotion into a proposition now.
Right. And you shouldn't have done that.
Yes.
Isn't an emotion. It's a claim.
Right. And so the emotion translated as aboutness, relational properties, and there's truth aptness to it again. They just operate within the same categorical domain. It's just psychologically they envelop different aspects of our experience. That's it. One's implicit, one's explicit is another way of putting it.
One's intuitive, one's deliberative.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this gets back to another question we talked about last time, which is the question of like gaslighting. Yes. And like, should anybody be able to tell me I don't feel what I feel? And it's like, well, when you express what you feel, you usually add propositions and assumptions and premises and like assertions in the statement of your emotion itself. Yeah. And so you've converted sheer emotion into intuition, which is a kind of thinking. And then you've added description with your rational capacity. And what is coming out is not just sheer how you feel. Yes. It is how you feel, what you think it means, how you're interpreting it, and how you're asserting it to the other person. Yeah. And most of that can be argued against. Yes. Without telling you your feelings are literally totally inadequate. Exactly. Unless your feelings include the inferences. But if your feelings include the inferences, then they can be argued with. Yes. Because they are conclusions and assertions.
This is why whenever I'm feeling frustrated.
That's why men and women have trouble arguing with each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's one of the reasons why in a debate, if I'm feeling frustrated even, I will say literally something along the lines of like, hey, I'm feeling really frustrated right now because whenever I'm trying to nail you down on a claim you make, you will switch it to a different thing. And I perceive that as disrespectful or like you're trying to run away from something dishonest. Or something like that, right? I'll actually like make the inferences and all that stuff while actually talking about my feelings at the same time. Yeah. So,
yeah. And I think that's one reason why I would argue that part of godliness is getting to the point where that interplay between your intuitive thought, your feelings, your deliberative, like it all kind of comes together maturely. Yes. And because I think the way I say the Bible teaches this is like all these different things like conscience and intuition, they all kind of come together in this category the Bible uses called the heart. Yes. And in scripture, usually the heart is like just taken as a whole. It's all these different streams of our internal life coming together. And what God is trying to renovate or to give a heart of flesh instead of a heart of stone is like how these all come together, which includes God like giving it new life, but also reordering it in maturity. right? And so the new birth can happen in an instant. A reorientation toward God, a new life in that space, and all those different faculties. But then it all has to get maturely reordered in the image of its creator through what we call sanctification.
And that takes effort.
Takes effort and time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of humiliation. Okay. So both in terms of gaslighting and in terms of like these internal feelings, I would go back to orientations for a minute, right? So a lot of us have these feelings of internal experience about like something that feels properly foundational. It's not like the second or third story that we're building on stuff, but it feels like it's in the foundation of who we are. Sexual orientation is one of those things that we in our culture, at least, we give that standing. It's not even the first floor. It's in the foundation. You can't change it. That's all there is to it. You can tear down the whole house, and you're still going to be building on that foundation. Yeah. Right. And then I said, when we recorded this last time, I said, that's also true heterosexually. That like, there's a lot of men, for example, that say my orientation is actually towards like philandering or lechery or whatever, that like, what people would call promiscuity. Yeah. And that's what I'm wired for. That's my orientation. So if I commit adultery or if I am profligate or whatever, that's my orientation. Right. As Christians, relative to like how that creates doubts towards God and how we imagine ourselves, how would you talk to a person who like has just been like seeped in a culture of, well, it's your orientation, it just is who you are. It's what you are. It's foundational. Yeah. I mean, to doubt that is to say you can't exist. It's literally to like people talk this way, like you're trying to make it so I can't exist. Yeah. Like they'll use that language, which means I believe that this thing that is an orientation for me is so basic that if it doesn't exist, I literally don't exist. Yeah. Okay. So the answer is it depends. And the reason why I say that is because if you're trying to change the person's mind, it's not going to happen in a debate setting. It's going to happen in a setting where the person you're talking to actually trusts your judgment. Kind of like what you said in your sermon. Like, if you're being confronted, you're asking the question, is this person gaslighting me, or can I actually trust what they're saying? Right. And this is one of those aspects where identity, anything that's closer to somebody's actual identity, the more important this is going to be, because if they can't trust you. Right. And whether that's literally their actual human identity or what they perceive to be at the core of their identity. Yeah. We talked about this. I'll start with this analogy. And I've seen that like with just athletes. Like you play sports enough, like being a baseball pitcher is your identity. Like you don't realize you've done that, but you have. Because once you lose it, you don't know who you are. Yeah. We talked about this after the first service, I think it was, where I gave an analogy to a person you were talking to even, about how you have this false perceived identity that you've built up and it needs to get knocked down. Right. So for me, it has to die, literally. For me, it had to, right? So like and this happens to me all the time, by the way, right? This was just one of the clicky ones that really hit me hard. Right. But before you strive this, once you see this in the Bible, it's everywhere. Yes. Like I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. Take up your cross daily and follow me. There's like all these different passages in the Bible. It's, put off the old self and put on the new self. Yep. Like there's so many metaphors for this in Scripture that it's, once you have an eye to see, it's everywhere. Like what's happening in Christ is parts of you are being put to death, and the parts of you that are really part of your nature are being renewed in the image of its creator. And that is also both are a painful process. Yeah. And so the biggest one that with me was, and I think you remember this, it was about 2 years ago, I think now, I was going through like 16 surgeries. I was in constant pain. Yeah, I remember that. And before all this, I saw myself as this really resilient, reliable guy. Nothing you can do to me. There's nothing you could do to me that could stop me from being dependable and being somebody you can count on. And this was such a physically painful moment of my life where I was just exhausted. I was weak. And I'm okay admitting that right now, right? But I could not admit that then. And there was this moment where a friend of mine asked me to play some video games with him, just over like online. And when he asked me to play that, I said, I can't, I'm too busy. And I didn't realize what I just did at that moment. What ended up happening is it was like 8 o'clock at night when he asked me to play, and I wasn't playing with him. Instead, what was happening was I took some painkillers and I was on the couch writhing in pain. And I was like, wait, why did I say I'm busy? Yeah. I like legitimately believed that I was busy. Like, and that identity I had for myself was something that was so close to who I thought I was, that I subconsciously actually made up a lie that I really did believe. Yeah.
And I didn't make that lie up on purpose.
Right.
Like it just kind of happened. I'm not saying I'm not culpable for it.
We're meaning makers for good or ill.
Right.
We can make up lies for meaning, and we can orient our truths for meaning.
Right. And then it hit me. I'm like, holy crap. I just subconsciously lied to protect this false identity I had. And then that was starting the process of killing it.
Mm-hmm.
And a really, really, really long process that I'm still learning to go through, which is just allowing people to help me.
And we invested that because once you have that identity, you then project it as an image.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you invest yourself in the projected image, the more humiliating it is to take it apart.
Yeah.
And so not only did you have that identity, when you told that guy you were too busy, you were actually projecting the image too. And both of those make it more humiliating to say that's not true.
It was humiliating. Yeah. Because I apologized to him. I'm like, hey, I had lied to you. I didn't even realize I did that, but I lied to you. And the reason why, and yeah, it sucked. It was really humiliating, but that was a part of me that needed to be killed because for anybody else that might even be struggling with this, like one of the things that I realized was like I was robbing people of the opportunity and the virtue of helping me, of being there for me. And the same kind of thing can happen with our sexual identities too. If we buy into this idea that it's such an identity marker that like that resisting your sexual proclivities means dying in a negative sense.
Yeah. And one of the things I've learned as I've gotten older and as I've pastored more people is not only are our sexualities like really strange in how they concoct and how they activate and all that kind of stuff, but that a lot of sin, dysfunction, brokenness, and hurt sexualizes in one way or another. And we don't really know why or how that happens. And because as a society, we don't want to believe it. We haven't actually studied it that much either. And so we're kind of in the Stone Age, even though we like are in the space age and some things, we're kind of in the Stone Age and really understanding human sexuality. Yeah. In moral and psychological categories, other than just like affirming people doing things. Yeah. And because of that, we're just dumbfounded about it. But like for example, I've had conversations with couples who the wife is like, look, I know my husband's like a younger man and he has a lot of testosterone and but he just wants to have sex like literally all the time. Like, and it just seems strange, and I just don't feel like I can keep up. And I remember saying to guys like, sex is comforting. Are you like, and like after a while they realized like it's not their massive masculinity, it's actually a deep sense of inferiority that they have. And like having sex is like affirmative, it's affirmational, it's comforting, like on a very visceral level, all the way around in ways that they because they can't even admit the problem that they have, that they actually hate themselves and they feel incredibly inferior. They can't even tell themselves they feel that way. And so it expresses itself as hypersexuality. They want to have sex because they get all the things that they need. Yeah. And they don't have to admit to themselves the thing that they are. They actually can believe the opposite, that they're this incredibly virile masculine man that wants to have sex all the time, which is, of course, what every man wants to believe about themselves. But meanwhile, it's really, they hate themselves. Yeah. Like they feel insecure. They feel broken. They're having trouble connecting with others. Right. And so, and that's like for a heterosexual guy in a Christian marriage. Yeah. Right. And so one of the realities I've had to face with sexuality and God's laws about sexuality is if I don't get to do what I want with my sexuality, it takes away this whole like realm of ways in which I can comfort myself, in which I can live in a world of fantasy. And I can go on, look at a number of things. Yeah. And when you get cut off from the idolatry of sexual use, the short-term connections, all that kind of stuff, you don't get to comfort yourself in those ways. And it forces you to face things that are hard, really hard. And that's how I've experienced my own life. It's just like the limitations God has put on my sexuality has forced me to face numerous major issues in myself as a person. And all of them have been highly productive to my growth and my ability to love another person, to have a family, to live productively, to accept aging. I'm 48 at this point. It's like, oh, there's a post virility, hyper virility life where like I'm probably done procreating.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And I'm still a man. Now what? Yeah. And if sexuality is everything, there is no now what. Yeah. Right.
That's interesting. Yeah, because the aging thing has manifested for me, not in the sexuality aspect for me, but because back to the identity thing that I had, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I have like back pain now, I'm 32. It's not that old, but like the back pain is starting to happen, and I can't throw around 600 pounds in a deadlift and just be fine anymore, right? And that is a struggle that I had to learn to like start accepting. And so it's just interesting to kind of hear that.
Right. And those things are as deep in us as these things we call orientations. And what I would say is some of the things that we call orientations functionally are like first floor, but they are not the foundation. And I think that as much as I dislike a lot of the Christian history around virginity, just like total chastity, like people living like with like the vow of chastity and poverty and obedience, it's like you do end up seeing wisdom in that. Like if you have sexual continence, if you let go of all worldly possession, and if you obey somebody as opposed to your own self-will, you literally reverse sinful human existence. Yeah. And it's really hard, but if you can do it, it's like a completely different experience.
It's one of those things where in the past it was just you've taken something good and malformed it in an effort to do the good, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the good is chastity.
Yes.
Like the ability to have what Augustine called sexual continence, the ability to control yourself, which is what Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 4. Every believer has to learn how to control their own member of their body, sexually speaking. So, anyway, so we've said a bunch on that. Let's move on to a couple other things here while we have a minute. You said a little bit about having conversations with people when you don't feel equipped, right? So there are people who are skeptical. You want to have conversations with them about the Lord. You're not as equipped as you would like to be. Yeah. You said a couple of things when we recorded this before. You said, stay in your lane. Like you don't have to be an expert. Yeah. And if you try to be, that's probably not helpful. Yeah. And then you're
actually probably doing more damage than good.
Right. Because if you put yourself forward as an expert and then they don't find you compelling. Yeah. Sometimes it's better to be like, look, this is just how I think about it.
I'll say another thing that I didn't say when we were recording, and hopefully this doesn't come off the wrong way either, which is if you do put yourself in that position where you are not equipped and you try to argue, what ends up happening is there's tons of people that do that. And then the people that you argue with come to people like me, and then I have to undo the damage that was done before I can actually give a good argument, if that makes sense. So you might actually be doing damage.
Yes, I've seen this in, there are, I can't remember who this was, but I talked to a mechanic one time and he charged more if you tried to fix the thing yourself first. If you brought the thing to him in pieces, he's like, it's going to cost double. Yeah. Because if I got to take it apart and lay the pieces out and then fix it, that's way easier than me trying to fix what you tried to fix. Yes. And there's some truth to that. Like oftentimes Christians trying to do ministry can do harm. I don't want that to lead to people not having those spiritual conversations. So one of the things we said before was just don't try to win. Yes. And don't be anxious about defending your faith so that you feel good. Just ask them, well, why do you think that? And like the universe is not at stake. Your faith is not at stake. And they're probably not going to get saved like in this conversation. Yeah. So you just go like, well, why do you think that? And why did you find that scholar compelling as opposed to another one that believes the opposite? Or like how much is controlled by what you've come across? And so on. Yeah. Would you be interested in hearing some of the videos I thought were really good? Yeah. And then you just kind of walk through it and if you don't put yourself forward as the person who's an authority, then your success or failure in being convincing is not that relevant. Yeah,
100%. So operate within the confines of the gifting that you've been given in the body of Christ, and see that as a freedom is the thing. Like the next thing I would say. Then from there, if you're not equipped, know the resources that you can point people to. And then, like you said, just ask a bunch of questions. Because like I said earlier too, most people, when they try to make an argument against Christianity, they don't actually even know what they're talking about. They're just parroting something they've heard. And that's just your opportunity to ask a bunch of questions. Well, why do you think this? Okay, well, a bunch of scholars said this. Okay, well, what scholars and why do you find their arguments compelling? What are their arguments? And just keep going and keep going and just unpack it. And
without being accusatory, like, because people feel if you're like, well, what's the argument with the, if it's just kind of like, well, who have you read? And what is it? Yeah, I think that that's helpful. Yeah. All right, I'm just going to move on because we have limited time. This is a different question. How do I explain to an atheist that believing is a moral choice and not a question of how much evidence it'll take for them to believe? I sound clueless when trying to explain because I'm not very smart. Okay. So to be clear,
I love that humility.
What I would argue is that belief is a holistic psychological controversy or challenge as opposed to a just evidentialist or utterly rational one. Mm-hmm. So it'll include the function of your rationality as a person, but like Lewis showed in like the Pilgrim's Regress, reason itself can't come to any conclusions. Mm-hmm. It demonstrates consistency in relationship, and that's all it can do. And so if you think reason can get you to a conclusion, that's not really true. Mm-hmm. You are making inferences and you're assuming axioms and so on, right? And so it's important to recognize what I was saying on Sunday is it's not a mere philosophical argument and therefore not evidentialist only, but it's a holistic, heart-based confrontation with the very nature of reality that includes emotion and conscience and reason, and thus evidence has some portion of relevance to the question. Yeah. But essentially what God does in Scripture is he makes a moral confrontation with humanity, and he does that in front of an evidential proof, not behind. And so demanding more evidential proof is not something God submits to. Yeah.
No, I agree with all that. It's helpful to understand the psychology of belief formation too, right? Because like belief formation, like you said, it's not just purely rationalistic or evidentialist. Your beliefs are gonna be formed on the basis of a bunch of different aspects, right? Like even something as simple as, does this belief I have put me into a group identity that gives me benefits and stuff like that? Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, and something like 70 or 8% we believe is on authority.
Yes, and mimetically too. Like
we just imitate it from.
Yes,
it comes in through imitation more than
my sons are not virtue ethicists, right?
Right.
But they understand that virtues are worth cultivating,
and they should feel bad if they lie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Based off of how they've perceived me acting, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Aristotle called this the inculcation of just sentiments. And, Lewis was like, he's like, I would rather play cards against an atheist who was brought up against people who believed you shouldn't cheat at cards than a virtue ethicist who was brought up among card sharks.
Yes.
And I mean, this is why Stalin and Hitler both made the argument, if I have your kids until they're 8, I'll have them the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Because I will inculcate all the assumptions of their hearts.
Yeah. And so as soon as you have that context in mind, understanding that belief can actually be a moral category can get really simple, right? I mean, just an example I can kind of just concoct off the top of my head is just imagine you have cancer, and the cure to this to your cancer that you have is in this pill bottle if I have one right now, right? But in order for me to offer it to you, I have to believe that this is the cure. And let's just say I have other motivations to say that I don't want you to get cured because I hate you or something like that, right? I'm going to do things, psychologically speaking, to seek disconfirmation of the idea that this is actually the cure. And all of a sudden, that very act has put on culpability on me. So if you have like intentions or desires that you act upon that move against a belief that you should believe in, you're not culpable. You're indirectly culpable for the non-belief of that thing through the actions you've taken to subvert your own belief. And this is like a very intuitive, very fast thing we end up doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the technical word for that is bigotry.
Yes.
Right? It's like something you should know better than, but you refuse to know better than, but you do genuinely, authentically believe.
Yes. Yeah. There's tons of examples. There's tons of examples of why belief is a moral category. I mean, hypothetically speaking, if Hitler was in my chair right now and he says, I hate Jews, I believe that Jews are inferior, they're subhuman. You're going to go, no, you're an evil person for believing that. That's an example right there that I don't have to give a bunch of... And he would
probably argue evidences that he's experienced or knows why the Jews are evil.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I've had conversations with race criticalists that would say that about white people.
Yes. So
almost indistinguishably. right?
Yeah. So belief being a moral category, it's really simple to conceptualize because all you got to do is just find some sort of a moral claim that you and the person that thinks belief is not a moral category, right? Find something you agree on that's within the moral category and then go, so do you think somebody would be evil if they did not believe this or chose to believe this?
Mm-hmm.
And if they say yes or no, well, congrats, they think belief is a moral category.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think some people who are more atheistic or rationalistic would say, yes, but that's all true. However, what maturity as a human person would look like would be to be increasingly rationalistic, like increasingly evidence-based and empiricist and blah, 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 towards all the beliefs that you have. And I mean, I can think of a couple arguments against that, i.e. it's incredibly inefficient. Nobody could actually
that's just painting yourself as the ideal observer. And I'm
right.
like, good luck.
Also the likelihood that your perception will be correct. But like, I'm just like, as a matter of efficiency, you can't do all the homework for every belief you have. Like of the vast majority of beliefs will have to be received.
Testimony.
Right. And then secondly, can you really be this observer? The truly objective observer.
Yeah.
And then you've got the third problem is, okay, that's great for like, is grass green? But if you're trying to get from an is to an ought, like a moral question, you can't do that way.
Yeah.
That's not that kind of a question. So now what? Right.
Yeah.
Now you need intuitive axioms of morality.
Yeah. And this is why we have philosophers that debate normative ethics,
right?
Which is literally just the study of like what ethical systems are better than others.
Right.
So
yeah. Yes, the only class I took from Oxford was on ethics, and it was basically normative ethics. Like how do you build? The final paper was, what is your built ethical system? And the one thing I did conclude from the class is there are no options in philosophy that work.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing, it's kind of a meme in the academic world. It's just what hypothetical concoctions can you come up, no matter how unrealistic, can I make up in order to undercut some sort of like framework? So like the joke I always make is like, I'm a virtue ethicist, and somebody might say like, okay, well, you think courage is a virtue that should be cultivated, but imagine you live in a world where anytime you feel courage, laser beams shoot out of your eyes, and now there's an infirmary of babies that's on fire. Are you going to be courageous and save them and accidentally slice them all up? No, it'd be a bad thing. And it's like, the joke here is like, that's not the world we live in. Why are we even talking about this? But this is what happens in the debates.
Yeah, the fallacy there is that everything that's ethical must be necessarily ethical.
Yeah.
And that's false.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay. Sorry, I treated that dismissively. Okay, let's do one more thing quick. You
should have treated it dismissively because it's a joke.
It's silly. Yeah. Okay. We talked a little bit about okay, let's use the last few minutes we have to talk about this question about, I made a statement in my sermon about there being a group of Americans that essentially have been kind of told they were bad their whole lives, and that produces a moral formation, usually of rebellion at some point. People who are told that they're bad, they will comply for a while, and then at some point they have to choose between their own existence and rejecting this other group, what they're telling them, and there's usually a rebellious reaction. And so somebody ended up asking, what group of little boys in the U.S. are growing up with only this one negative philosophy about them? And I answered that the one I was talking about was like white men. And so let's talk about that a little bit, but I want to start with a preface is that it's easy. Human beings that are in control will often find scapegoats, and they will come up with a narrative of intrinsic evil in that scapegoating group. And so it is not just younger white men that have internalized a like false consciousness about their being based on the messages they've received. I would say that for a lot of black men, it's for different reasons. It comes in a different way. But they know their own incarceration rates. They know, people say like most of the criminality in America is young black men. They're only 13% of the population. They've heard all that stuff. They hear all this stuff about fatherlessness, that black men can't commit, and like all this kind of stuff. And it like weighs in on them, right? And oftentimes being raised by women and not by men. Also, their masculinity isn't formed in those certain ways that where a present male voice could, right? And there's a sense of like real inferiority placed upon them in a way that's really negative and systemic, I would say, right? So arguing like who's better, who's worse, I mean, I don't even know if that's helpful.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that only a certain cohort of young white men is this happening to. But I think the important thing to say is it is happening.
Yeah.
It actually has already happened. I do lay the majority of the fault at American secularized progressivism. That's who's attacked them so relentlessly. Yeah. And I would say it is the chickens are coming home to roost. And just as a scorned woman hath, like there's no end to her fury, a man who has been caged, that realized his paternity has been stolen.
Yeah.
There's no end to his fury.
Yeah.
And that is starting to come to fruit in America. And women cannot stop this. Other men have to step in.
Yes.
And say, no, we're doing something else.
Yeah.
And so that's my job and yours. And I think that, and I don't know if I can do it for black men. I don't know if black men will listen to me. I don't know if I can be their guide because I look Caucasian, like I'm a white man, right? Maybe I can help some of these younger white men, right? And so hopefully we could bring us all together in the beloved community God actually imagines for us, right? So you have thoughts about this? So
yeah, I mean, so this was on my mind for a few years actually, because I was just watching. I don't really I tend to not look at the political pundits or anything too closely. What I end up observing most of the time is culture and the people within the culture. And the thing that really put the alarm bells on for me was after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Actually, I knew after this happened that a bunch of people would end up kind of getting radicalized in some way, shape, or form.
I had no idea how much Charlie Kirk had done to hold the cockroaches back and to unify the American right. I had no idea.
I never even paid attention to him.
Me either. Like, and now, like, I did, because, like, here's the thing. Everybody said that he was this dividing figure. Well, he's this dividing figure. He says all these outlandish things, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, what people didn't know is behind the scenes, every text message, every phone call, all these things, he was like putting out fires, getting people to work with each other, like trying to build this like broad coalition. And so he was apparently on the right. He was an incredibly uniting figure. Yeah. And he was the only one. Like, he was the chief person. And so when he was killed, the right started to come apart.
The right started
more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
I knew there would be an emotional reaction to this, but I didn't know that the infrastructure of the right socially was so dependent on him.
Yeah. The right started to come apart, and there's a lot of other things happening. There's people on the right that are young men that became radicalized in one of these broken compartments. And then there's people that are leaving the left and they want to become Christians. Like, just here in the Madison area, I've talked to about 8 different atheists that were like, after Kirk got assassinated, I just rethought my liberal policies. I don't know what I believe about politics, but like, I'm really interested in Christianity now. Some of these people are on like a dangerous trajectory to being Christianized conservatives rather than Christians who are politically conservative.
Correct, yeah.
And so right now there's a really, 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 I think, this is a very vital point, because the question is, all these young people who don't really have a true understanding of themselves, a narrative by which they believe and see themselves in through the world, what narrative are they going to buy?
Right.
And something really powerful and good could come out of all this if we play our cards right. And like you said, the right men step up and lead the way. Yeah. Otherwise, something horrible can come along, because now all of a sudden you're going to have Christianized radicals who are, one, causing damage, speaking things that are not true, giving people bad narrative that's going to cause more harm. And also the people that are not believers, they're going to look at this and say, that's Christianity. And it's just going to reinforce this boogeyman that the left has built up of Christian nationalism. Yeah. And it can, you can see the picture I'm painting. So
yeah, and nationalism, Christian nationalism has, I don't know, 7 varieties. Like,
I don't know what the word means half the time.
Right, because people use them. It's I get back to the equivocation fallacy. It's like, do you mean like what Yoram Hazony literally said about it? That nationalism as opposed to empirism and tribalism.
Yeah.
That there's a size that's so big that only with top-down massive authoritative control can all the tribes and peoples be united in such a way as to create the empire. Or tribalism, once you get past 150 people, everybody starts killing each other.
Mm-hmm.
How do you unite the tribes?
Yeah.
As a people that still have a feeling. So there's like a coherent group of people.
Yes.
That you can talk of as a nation, and those people should govern themselves and then have relationships with other people, right?
Yeah.
That we have a world of united nations.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to empire or tribalism.
Yeah.
Well, if you define it that way, I'm a nationalist.
Yes.
Like wholeheartedly a nationalist, right? But if you define it another way, like we need to reinstitute a certain form of white America.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I don't think so. Like some of the things in historic white America would be helpful.
Yeah.
Like the 2-parent family.
Yeah.
But not like everything. Certainly not racism or something like that, right?
One of the ways that I try to like reduce all of this down to is, are you wanting Christianity to be the religion of the state, or are you wanting Christianity to be the state religion? Mm-hmm. The former is just saying it assumes the separation of church and state.
Right. But that so many people have been persuaded to be Christian.
Yes.
That it reflects itself in the state naturally.
Exactly.
And non-coercively.
And then the latter is the state has imposed the religion in such a way where most people are probably not even Christians. They're just following what the state tells them what to do.
Yes. Which have worked so well in Europe.
Yeah, exactly. And so that seems to be the boogeyman, though. Like it seems like the latter option is what people are saying Christians in America are, when most people are just like, no, I want to spread the gospel, and I want that to be reflected in the country that I live in.
Yeah.
And the left has built such a boogeyman of Christian nationalism that if these people, these young men who are becoming radicalized go down the wrong path, that's just reinforcing the boogeyman narrative. And I think that's incredibly dangerous.
Right, and you get these
reasons.
swings back and forth, because either you'll get like this triumph of a new right, which is very dangerous, or what will happen is they will trigger a opposite swinging to like a more radicalized left. Yeah. Which it's like, well, that's probably as bad.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of people in America don't really understand what right and left bad is, because they don't even understand how right and left in America is different than Europe and the continent versus England or any of the history of any of that stuff. And so people are just like, oh, these people good, these people bad, based on, again, like we talked about before, we just believe people we find credible. Yeah. That's how we form those beliefs for the most part. And this is one of the reasons I think going to a church with people who are different is so helpful. Because like in my church, we have people of different races. We have Democrats and Republicans. We have very persuaded Democrats and Republicans that they're right, and that as a Christian you should vote for that. Yeah. That that's the right choice prudentially. And they're different ages who have very different views. And I think that if you can really engage the community like that, it brings down the echo chamber stuff, and it allows you to realize, okay, we know this is real life. Yes. This is real life, and we have to have a country for like all these people. And my church is so diverse, but we're unified around the gospel, right? I think that that's really helpful. I also think that like, we do need certain men to step up and say, hey, this is what masculinity looks like. And we need women, particularly progressive women, to affirm that, or at least to validate certain parts of it.
You know, I didn't actually realize how rare that was to have like women validate a man's masculinity, if that makes sense. Because my wife, she just does it really naturally. Yeah. Like even when I'm debating, she actually really loves it when I'm debating like a Muslim and gets to see the more aggro side of me. Because she'll just be like, yeah, get him. Like, and then I have friends that like, they'll tell me, oh, I can't do this because my wife won't like it or something. And like, I'm like, that's never computed to me. Like the things that I can't do because my wife won't like it are the things that I wouldn't want to do because they're sin. Yeah.
Right. Oh, there's a section that I almost tear up every time I read in Till We Have Faces, where Oriol goes and talks to this man that she was like in love with, who was like the captain of her guard. She goes to comfort his wife after he dies. And the queen is talking about love, And the wife was bitter because this woman had stolen all of his best time.
Yeah.
And never let him actually be with his family. And she was like, well, why didn't you do something? And she's like, because it was his job to decide how a great man should live his life.
Mm-hmm.
He was a soldier. He wasn't my doxy. He's not my pet.
Yeah.
He's a man. He's like, and she says at one point, what is any woman to men in the end? In the great deeds of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like even as a woman who had borne like 8 children to this man, and he was her husband, she like had this sense of like, what did you want me to reduce him to something that I could possess?
Yeah.
And dominate and control? And Oriel's just kind of like, yeah, but he would have been yours. And she's like, do you know anything about love?
Yeah.
Like, or how to love a man? Like, you know nothing about it. And when I read it, I was like, that understanding, feminine understanding of what it means to love a man is completely lost.
Yeah.
And somehow Lewis understood it still. And it's funny because he dedicated that book to Joy Davidman, this woman he met late in life and who he married and who had this like very strong support and helped him produce the greatest literature maybe he ever wrote. I think that book is his greatest book. Mm-hmm. And yet he had this like, as a man, he wrote these incredible feminine characters. So
yeah,
I think part of the problem, I think what we have to wake up to is that some of our reform movements on the progressivist side have some goods in them, but they lacked substantive limiting principles. And when that happens, you end up running roughshod over the thing that you have to be locked in balance with. I was having a conversation with a guy who's a little bit more progressive than me the other day, and he's like, could you tell me like how you would like stack your values relative to like public life? Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't think I can do that. And here's why. Because if my values are almost the exact same as yours, but my value 3 is your value 4, mm-hmm. and my value 4 is your value 3. Even though we have almost exactly the same principles, we can end up at each other's throats about one particular situation, and we'll have what Freud called the bigotry of small differences. We'll feel incredibly betrayed by each other. I said, what's actually required is that there's almost like opposites that have to be properly interlocked in order for them to work. And masculinity and femininity are one of those things. Yeah. Like functional masculinity and functional femininity have a lot of overlap, but where they are differential, they have to be properly interlocked. Yep. You have to understand both of them and how they fit. And if you push the feminine principle too far in reform, you actually end up overwriting the masculine principle in a way that's really negative. Yeah. And what happens for men is usually they leave. Yeah. Right. And that's like really bad. Yes. Because they will evoke their masculinity in another way. Yes. Other than providing for and protecting a woman and their children. And I think that's one of the reasons why Charlie Kirk tried to summarize what he was calling men to by saying, get married, have children. Yes. That was like, if you like narrow down, he's like, believe in Jesus. It forces you. Go to a church, marry a woman and have children with her. And because I think that's actually right. If men don't allow themselves to be exploited like a mine, like the good dug out of us and used for other goods, if we don't realize that we received life and then we pass it on, our life is used to pass on life, then how do you not get resentful if you have 4 children and you're carrying 5 people? Mm-hmm. In your productivity, and you'll be like, why am I carrying all these people? Yeah, I could be playing video games and eating burritos and going on trips, halibut fishing in Alaska. Yeah, like why am I doing this? Like you have to be meaning making. Yes, and believe that this is what your life is for. This is the greatest privilege you could ever have. This is, and it also has to hold you back from leaving your wife for a younger woman later. Yeah, like it has to be incredibly ordering, and only when it is ordering will women be happy. Yeah. Like, how can you, like, as a woman, you have to have a man you can't control. Yes. There's so many cool ways to go. Well, I want to add something to what you just said, because it reminded me of a conversation I was having at a family party, basically. When you're having like a family dinner or like a big group of people, and somebody will ask like one of those typical Christianese questions, like, what are your highs and lows of the year? Blah, 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 blah. And everybody's kind of going through. I hate those. Yeah. I do too. And the reason why, and I said it at the table, and I think I upset the person who asked the question, because I said, like, I just don't think about my life like that. Yeah. My life is not a chapter here and a chapter here that's completely isolated. The things that, for me, I value the most are the small, imperceptible moments that I don't even recognize in the moment. But then later on in the day, I look back, and then those are the things that I judge, I value, I make evaluative judgments on, right? Something as simple as my son decided to, it's not really on my hand, you can kind of see it a little bit on my nails.
I was working with spray foam over the weekend, and then my youngest decided to try to grab it, and I had my gloves off, and so I instinctively grabbed the spray foam, and then I had basically cement on my hands for like a whole entire week, right? And then
stuff is awful.
It was horrible. I was on the inside, I was fuming.
Yeah.
But like the small imperceptible moment of going, okay, buddy, I just need you to get away for a second, right? Like,
at least he didn't get it on him, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like choosing not to respond in that fury I was really feeling in the moment, right? Yeah. Like, those are the things that really matter to me. And then they only really matter within the context of like the full story that I'm experiencing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that goes into the meaning making thing and all that stuff.
Right. Right. And so in a society, you have to set up a society so that men their lives are shaped in these deep concentric circles of meaning.
Yes.
And if you tell them they're bad and their masculinity is bad and women need men like they need fish need bicycles, and that like they're into that appropriate behavior is female behavior, and like well the world has been just full of war and like all this crap, and now that women will be in charge, it'll be so much better. Yeah, I am glad to see that now that women are more in charge, things are going terrible, and so that it goes bad for both. Like it's not like it's like I always doubted that when women were in charge, everything would be awesome, but now you're seeing it. Now that we're seeing it, I think, but it's a different horror, right? It's like, and if you don't interlock the masculine intuitions and the female intuitions, and if you don't realize they should have emphasis in different places in our society, then things go badly. Yeah. But when there is that harmony, that's why I tell young men and women, like I always get this like pre-marriage counseling thing, and it says their values, are they more egalitarian? Or are they more like complementarian or traditionalist versus equalitarian is what it says. And what I always tell couples, I say, listen, on one level, it doesn't really matter as long as you agree. And the most important thing is not that you're equal. It's that you both believe that the deal that you're getting is good. Yeah. Because you can't ever make it equal in a marriage. You can't ever go through all the math of like who's doing the chores and who's doing blah, blah, blah.
It's never going to be.
It's never going to be equal because you value things differently.
And there's ebbs and flows to life. Yeah. Like my wife during the summer has art shows, and then during the semesters, I'm usually traveling. Yeah. So it's like there's like during the summer, I'm the primary caretaker of the kids, and then during the school semesters, I'm gone 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, a lot of
the
time.
month. Yeah. And so.
And I think men and women also want different things, and they feel valued when different things happen. And if you try to like make it equal, and if the whole thing is driven by female guilt, like making you feel guilty, it should be like this, because cultural feminism says it should be this way. Men more and more are like, well, I hate this deal. But here's the amazing thing about what I call untethered feminism that doesn't have the right limiting principles and the right organizing principles, is that it makes both people totally unhappy with their deal. Yeah. Women hate their deal and men hate their deal. And that's what we have right now. Yeah. And that has to be totally rehabilitated. I don't know how you do that without Jesus the Christ.
You don't. And another thing that I think is really important too is also just that men need to self-correct within their own group too. So like one of the things that I realized just this year, I don't know how I didn't realize it before, was men in my generation and younger generations suck at confrontation. Yeah. So like anytime somebody crosses one of my...
You're not supposed to confront directly because women are in charge.
With my guy friends, right? Like in the past...
Your guy friends have grown up learning that female behavior is good behavior.
Right. And so anytime I've confronted people for crossing a boundary of mine, it's always been met with like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, kind of a thing.
You must hate me now.
Right. And then it wasn't until one of my friends recently, like last year, after I confronted him, said thank you to me. I was like, why are you thanking me? And he told me, he's like, you're the only friend I have that actually like will confront me on stuff. And then I'm like, as I'm observing over the last year, not just my own personal friendships, but then the friendships of my friends with other people, I'm like, there is no confrontation happening. So it's not just that like the right men need to step up and lead, but it's also like you, the listener, if you're a man, confront your friends. Yeah. And have those healthy, painful conversations. Right. It's going to go way better than you think. Right. And men in my experience, have an easier capacity to forgive.
Yeah.
If you piss me off, I'm going to be really mad at you for a second. But if like, and then I'll think about it. And if you're right, I'm going to come back and be like, hey, you were right, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I know you have something coming up here quick. And so we need to end now. Maybe we can do more on this later. Are there any men out there in the YouTubeosphere, blogosphere, whatever, that you're like, read their stuff, listen to their stuff, they're good? I actually like, this guy's pretty conservative, but I actually like Nick Freitas.
I don't know who that is.
He was in the Virginia legislature, and he was like I think he was a Green Beret or Ranger operator in the military, numerous combat missions, explicitly Christian.
Yeah.
But not to be confused with Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
So Nick Freitas, I think it's EITZ or something like that. Freitas or yes, as opposed to Fuentes with a W.
I would
stay as far away as you can. Yeah.
So I'm kind of a walking paradox when it comes to this kind of stuff, because I actually don't consume social media content at all.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So I would say I don't know.
I like Gavin Ortland because he says stuff straightforwardly. Ironically, his manner's a little effeminate in my book, but it's not effeminate. He's still being a man and doing masculine stuff that is saying stuff straightforwardly and well.
Yeah.
So his manner is a little bit more like, right? But what he is doing is speaking straightforwardly. And so I try to read the action more than the manner. And I think that what he's doing is really good.
I'm good friends with Gavin, and I would endorse that. Having not seen really much of his content or anything like that, I would endorse that, just knowing him personally. Yeah. This sounds kind of weird, I guess, but like for me, the way that there's two ways that I've tried to mimic what I think a good man should be within the capacity of what my dispositions are. Because I think masculinity lays within a spectrum. And then I think it was Aristotle who said there's the scholar and the soldier, right? And so it's like the demands of masculinity and how that's going to outwardly manifest for me is going to look very differently than somebody like Gavin, even though we're both being men.
Right.
And
in the same work, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the two ways that I would suggest for people to look is anybody that you would probably say like podcast wise or whatever, but then also just stories. What are the movies that you like to watch? What are the books you like to read? Stuff like that.
You'll feel something intuitively in your soul that is noble.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know how you feel about anime, but I like Dragon Ball Z.
Totally ignorant. I wish my son was here to
Fair
talk
enough.
about.
So I really like this show called Dragon Ball Z, right? And I feel an intuitive pull to one of the characters named Goku because he is the strongest warrior, but he's known for his compassion, his gentleness, and his forgiveness. To the point that this one guy named Vegeta in the really early part of the series kills basically everybody. Vegeta ends up also just killing one of his own men because his men was so weak. And then Goku's body is completely broken. He cannot move at this point. After the battle is done, Vegeta is crawling away to try to get away. And Goku's best friend has a sword above Vegeta, ready to kill him. And Goku, with his broken body still, is going, stop, let him go away. He has a chance of redemption. And then Vegeta, lo and behold, becomes one of the gang and gets completely redeemed. And for me, it sounds goofy, but watching that show, I'm able to kind of mimetically look at what's going on with Goku and go, I want to mimic those behaviors. And if that makes sense. Yeah,
I think when you say that, I think of Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and the Lord of the Rings. That Stephen Colbert, I would think of somebody who seems ideologically devoured by leftism in America. And yet, years ago, I remember him talking about what his favorite book was. And it was Lord of the Rings. And it was because that Aragorn was a warrior, poet, healer king. And that his masculinity, was drawn to that. And I know that's true for a lot of people that are more conservative. And Aragorn stands forth as Tolkien's way of showing what masculinity can be when it's willing to be whole.
Yeah.
right? And not a caricature of itself.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of masculine beauty in the Lord of the Rings, for example. So I think you can access this a lot in story. So we'll hopefully do more on this question because I think it's really important right now.
Yeah.
And we need to say what I think people need.
I have a
instruction
whole
in this area.
entire philosophical model of this, believe it or not. So
I do believe that actually.
It's really cool, and I can actually like break it down.
Great.
But not
Great.
here.
Well, we'll either point to it if you do it in Inspiring Philosophy. Otherwise, we can do it here, whatever is more conducive. But anyway, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Dan.
thanks for having me.
You get to be here for the next episode that we do. And hopefully this was helpful for those of you who are listening. We'll see you next time.